Episode 4 of Dungeon Meshi is pretty basic and incredibly faithful to the original manga panels, more so than any episode so far. It almost feels like they're alternating between these simple, straightforward episodes and the ones where they really put their own creative spin on it. It's a bit of tonal whiplash, but simple isn't necessarily bad. I thought the simplicity fit this slower, more dialogue-driven episode better than it did in episode 2, which just felt rushed. This one covers chapters 8 and 9 of the manga, was storyboarded by Tatsumi Fuji, and directed by this person. I think this is read as Yuki Kawano, but I'm not 100% sure because it could also be read as Tomoki Kono or something similar. I'm pretty sure we've got a first-time director here because in an interesting turn of events, outside this Twitter post from Studio Trigger, I can't seem to find any official information about this person online. Well, unless they're a professional Rubik's Cube solver. A cuber, as we say in the business. The one thing I could find was this YouTube channel whose only video is an animation school graduation project from a year ago. So I think this is the right person, but I'm really not sure. If anyone has any further information or sources that I can't read, do let me know in the comments, but it's interesting to see work from someone new to the industry, particularly in a studio that's so known for its established style as Studio Trigger. When we arrive at Senshi's home base, this door opening is the first instance of 3D animation I've noticed in the whole show. It's a little jarring, if I'm honest. This is a funny choice to cut directly between these two shots, as if Senshi put these farming tools in Laios, Chilchuck, and Marcel's hands before they even know what's happening. It's generally a rule of thumb in animation that if only one part of a character is moving, you should never copy the same frame, erase and redraw just that part, because that can suck the life out of it. Instead, you should always redraw the entire frame. But here they break that rule for comedic effect. If you layer these frames over each other, you can see that they're identical, except for the parts that moved between shots, and I appreciate that the hoe in Marcel's hand almost exactly matches the outline of her staff. Also that these two look displeased now, but Laios is the only one whose expression stays exactly the same. Senshi dons his straw hat on top of his helmet to protect his eyes from the subterranean sun, and this little head rotation is simple, but a nice touch to what would have otherwise just been a still frame. Senshi takes the lead for the first time outside the cooking montages to incapacitate his farming golems, and this cut by Atsushi Ikaria uses a neat trick where he runs past the camera, filling the screen for one frame and seamlessly transitioning from one background image to another. It reminds me of this type of Yutaka Nakamura style shot where a character will run quickly towards the camera, often up some sort of column or arm or something, while debris flies all helter-skelter around them, and as they pass by the camera it reframes, following a little behind the action. Senshi's motion here feels simple and orderly, like he's done this 100 times before. Even this little hop onto the golem's hand fits Senshi's stout, dense nature and nonchalant, business-like attitude. This is a far cry from the goofy, stylized action of the living armor fight, but it fits the atmosphere of this scene, and is still dramatic in a way that contrasts nicely with Senshi's demeanor. I also like the way they've hinted at the blocky texture of the golems with the edges of these shadows. I miss this little unnecessarily dramatic shot from the manga when Senshi applies the fertilizer to the golems, though adding in Chilchuck almost getting splashed here is a nice touch. Cutting straight from Marcel scolding Senshi for illegally tampering with magical monsters to her cheerfully planting seeds here feels kinda confusing, as if she didn't really care about what she was saying in the first place. Also, Laios is a bit off-model in this shot, and not in the intentional way from the last episode. You feeling okay, buddy? I love the look of wonder in Laios' eyes here as he imagines a pleasant life living in harmony as part of the dungeon's ecosystem. The cooking sequence continues to simply follow the manga panel by panel, minus this panel where everyone looks on in astonishment while Senshi zips around the room doing 10 things at once. It all feels very rudimentary, but I don't mind the more relaxing pace after the excitement of the previous episode. Mao Momiji, the food illustration specialist that Studio Trigger hired specifically for this production, continues to carry the team on his back. I particularly admire the cross-section of these carrots. Carrot neck! I don't really have anything to say about this, just look at it. With an episode like this one that's mostly just a series of faithful reproductions of the manga, it's the tiny little changes like this that stand out to me. When the others find out that Senshi's only plan when getting captured by the orcs was to make some bread, Chilchuck grabs him by the beard and, in this version, fully hangs off him like a monkey instead of just standing in front of him. And this little shaking animation is even animated on ones. Senshi gets super demented about bread! 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 And while many of the characters can seem foolish and single-minded at times, they always seem to prove that they're actually subtly more clever than they appear, as Senshi hijacks the energy of this argument and redirects it into the kneading of the dough so as not to get them all thrown in a fire, and Marcille realizes that by talking to the child she can appeal to the older orc's affection for his kid rather than his sympathy towards them. This is a nice little cut from key animator Hiroki Arai, and the little details like this droplet and the bits of cabbage spilling out add some nice realism to these simple moments. Here's something you may not have thought about. When drawing a keyframe, an animator needs to make it clear where the edges of an object are. These little X's outside the silhouette signify to the people further down the production line that this part shouldn't be colored in. So for such complicated shapes like the edges of this shredded cabbage, that's a whole lot of little X's to draw. This episode contrasted pretty sharply with the previous one and pretty simply just took the panels from the manga and put them on the screen. Shockingly directly, in fact. But unlike episode 2, I didn't feel like there was anything glaringly missing per se, and for 2 chapters that are primarily dialogue driven, it does make sense. And while I did feel some tonal whiplash, the more laid back pace and renewed focus on the food is a welcome breather before charging ahead toward the Red Dragon. I think more important than the animation in this episode is the groundwork being laid for the rest of the series. This is the first mention of the political background and tensions surrounding the dungeon, and the first time Laios has really considered the wider purpose of his presence in the dungeon beyond finding his sister and as many excuses to eat gross stuff as possible. So this may not have been the most exciting, but as we forge deeper into the dungeon, the roots of world building begin to spread outward beyond the task at hand. I'll try not to ramble on and overstay my welcome, so if you're interested in more videos like this, feel free to subscribe and like the video. Bye.